Hello everyone, my name is Hector Mendoza. I want to put this video out for those people that don't know how to use Microsoft Word, 365. So what we're going to talk about is how to change your font size, your font color, font kerning, and leading. And for those of you that don't know what kerning and leading is, kerning is putting space like between a character, between words, and leading is the difference between lines. For instance, you see there's more space between the first line, which is and my first sentence. My first sentence and this next paragraph. So that's leading. So it's in between lines. Okay. So we'll start with the basics. So if you go home, I got a video that explains what this is, and I'll tell you what it is. This is a ribbon. Okay. And on the ribbon, you have different tabs. And in each tab, you're going to have groups. You see it in between each line, like this is a group, this is a group, that's a group. So what we're going to talk about today is this group right here. I'm going to have a bunch of videos that explain every one of these groups. I started with this. I put a video yesterday. Now we're going to talk about this one. So the first thing is we'll talk about is let's say that you want to change the font size. So we're going to start from the beginning. So let's say if I only select this part right here and I want to change the font type. Okay, so when you click here, you're going to have a list of a bunch of different kinds of fonts, and you can actually add fonts to your system. So these are your basic fonts. So you could change it like that, right? You could go in here, change it to that. Now there's a lot of ways to change your font. This is one way. Okay, then you also, let's say I select this one right here. Another way you could do it is when you select something, you have this thing is called a mini mini toolbar. Okay, so you only got a few seconds before it disappears. Now if you select it and you hover around there, then it's gonna stay there until you do an action or pull away from it, then it disappears. Okay, so if you go here and immediately go here, then you have an option to use all of this things that are listed in the mini toolbar. So again, you could go in here and change the font. Another way you could do this, if you select here and you right click and you go to font, it's going to give you more options. Now you have a Font Dialog Box. Okay, so which is going to give you more options than that mini ribbon, right? Okay, so again, you could go in here and change to the font you want. So but here it's not going to show you how it looks. Okay, as before, you see when you select here, it gives you a preview of the font. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now you have other ways to change this. Go to your fonts. if you hit your Shift, Control, and P, you also get this same dialog box, right? And you're able to change it. You know, you could actually, let's say you're looking for Helvetica. Oops. Helvetica. And you hit OK, it's going to change it to Helvetica. And you also see the change down here. Okay. There is a way to change your font where every time you create a new document, it'll go in. Let's say you want Helvetica all the time, or Times New Roman. You can actually change that. We're not going to do this on this lesson. We're going to just talk about everything in this group. Okay, so that's how you can change your font, right? So now let's talk about how you change the size of your font, and I will show you what you have to be careful with when you're doing that. Okay, so let's start in the middle of this paragraph right here. So the easiest way is right here. You know, you can click here and it changes the fonts. Okay, you know, at the beginning it starts with 1, 2, you know, 1, and then it jumps to 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Okay, but so if you go in here, let me show you something, and you change the font. So let's change it to 24. Look what happens above that line. Here, let me change it here, especially here. Now, so that kind of makes this paragraph looks weird, right? So that's one thing you have to be careful when you're doing that. You don't want to, you can, but you really don't want to go in there and do that in the middle of a paragraph. It just don't look right. You can do that. Okay. Now, the same thing what we talked about earlier. You know, you can change, you can reach up here. You can, when you select something and you release, same thing. You get this mini toolbar, right? So you can change it there, right? Again, you can select, you can hit Shift Control P, and you see it automatically highlights the size, and you can tell it, you know, you don't have to go by the designated font sizes it's suggesting. You can put whatever you want. So let's say 22. All you have to do is hit 22 and then hit enter, and it changes it. Okay, and another way is this, when you release, you select something, you release it, you got it here too. So there's that's how you can change your fonts. Okay, now let's talk about coloring fonts or letters or numbers, characters. Okay, so let's say that I want to change this font into a different color. Remember, if you're sitting here, you're not gonna, you can actually, okay, so normally you're probably gonna be here. Okay, so you would be able to go right here and change the color of it, right? So let's pick that color. Now, so you have this selected color bar that you can go by. You know, you can click here, you can click here, you can click here, you can select any one of those. But let's say that that's not enough colors for you. You want a different color. You could go in here and look at more colors. So if you click on more colors, now you have this little color bar that you can click and you see this is the new color. So this is the one that I have selected, right? This is your current. Here's a new one. And you can click here and then you could hit OK and it would create a new color for your bars, right? Now, this is using the color RGB mode, which is called red, green, blue, right? Now, you could go in there and manipulate that color by changing this. You see how it's changing in color, right? But you have to understand what RGB and how it works, right? So I'm canceling it. So let's say that another thing you can do is I'm going to show you what hue. Here, let me go back to the gradient. Another way you can do a custom color is by going in here and do your hue, saturation, and luminance. So let's pick a dark color. Okay, you see that this is the new color, because remember this color is this. And let's say that you went up here and you selected this, but this is pretty close, but you want it lighter. Then you see on your luminance, you can go in here, and as you increase, it gets lighter. As you decrease, it gets darker. So you're able to manipulate that accordingly just by doing that. So let's say I was satisfied with that, then I would hit OK. Now, you know, so now on this document, you're going to have recent colors, because now you can go in here, go to your font colors, and you know it's going to keep this selection. So next time that you open up this document, you know, you can, or let's say that somebody gives you a document and you like that color, what you would do is you would go in here and save that color in your document. That way you can have that color. Now that you know how to change colors here, it's the same thing that we talked about. You know, as you select it, you're going to have a mini bar. You can change here. Let's say if you are here, you can right click. So let's say you're right here, and it's a lot further going down here than to just right clicking, and there's your mini bar again. Or you can go to your fonts. This is going to bring what they call, I think it's called a Font Dialog Box. Okay, so if you click here, then this is a Font Dialog Box, or at least that's what I call it. I think that's what it is. Same thing. You can select your colors here, right here. You see. Another way would be to there's another way to select that Font Dialog Box. Is you see right here, if you click here, it gives you that Font Dialog Box. Okay, so now I showed you how to change the font, how to change the size, how to change the color of the font. Now, so let's start with this area here again. So if I select this first character, you know, I left click and drag and released. Let's say I want to make that particular font bold. I could go in here and click bold. Now it makes that font bold, right? So so let's say I did the same thing here. Now let me show you another thing. You see how I selected one character? If I hold my control key, I can continue to hold or select one character at a time by left clicking, dragging, and releasing. And then I could make those bold. And I could change the color. Okay? And like we discussed before, you can have those same options by hitting your Shift Control P, by selecting, and you have that dialog box, the mini dialog, or you can go down here and change it that way. Now, in the same way, you can select and make it italic. You can underline the word. You can strike through it. There'll be a line going right in the middle of it. You can go in here and make it that's a descender, and then make it on top or the bottom, or release. So this is a toggle to, if you click on it, it puts it at the bottom. If you release it, it puts it on the top. So it's here, excuse me one second. I don't know who was calling, but anyway, so now there's some other characters that how you can change your characters in other ways. So look, you have glows. All this are text effect typography. Okay, so you could make that font. You could put a drop shadow. You can even put you can change it that color, or look at the bottom of it. You see how it puts it like a drop shadow in it too. Or look, you have these other options to change the colors, to change different kinds of shadows. You see how those shadows look at the bottom? You can make it look like a reflection, a glow. Okay, so there's a lot of things that you can do with that. Now let's talk about highlighting a word or a paragraph or just a character. So if I wanted to put a highlighter there, this is where you would click, right? So now I'm going to left click, select the word, and I highlighted it. So this is how you highlight your words. Now let's say that you want a different color on your word or character. You would click here and you have a few options, right? But you could go in here and click this color theme and change colors there. And remember, I showed you how you could go in here and pick other colors. You hit OK. Now, because if you use this, you're limited to this colors only. But you can go in here and use this for more colors. You even got the color that you used last time. So let's say that you use this. Because that color was different than the text, it went ahead and automatically reversed the text. It turned it white. So now we've talked about this. So we talked about the underline. One thing we didn't talk about is, let's say I select this whole line. I want to underline, but I want a different kind of underline. Let's say I want a double line. You can see that double underline, right? Or you want small dashes, large dashes, dashes, big dashes, small dashes, you know, or you want a squiggly line, right? Now, so let's pick something, this one right here. But you don't like the color of that line. Let's go back to it. This time, you see where it says Underline Color? We can change only, not just the, we don't have to change the text. You can just change the line. So now you have that look. Okay, so now we've talked about making a type bold, underline, italicize, underline, strike through, doing a glow, highlighting it, changing colors. Okay, so another thing, words or characters. Okay, you see how it's capital, lowercase, lowercase. Let's say that you want this to be all caps. So you can go in here and click here and change it to uppercase. When you click on uppercase, look, now they're all going to be capitalized. Okay, or you can go in here and make them all lowercase, or you could go back to you know, capitalize each word. Okay, or sentence case, just like it was before. Now another thing, we're gonna talk about enlarging, which we already talked about it, but there's another way that you can enlarge. You can click here, and every time you click, you see it's enlarging it every two like every 2 points. You can click here, same thing, you go backwards, but once it gets to a certain, like after 9, it only does one at a time. So between 0 and 8, it'll go 7, 8, and after 9, I think after 10, then it goes to 12. Oh no, after 12 it goes to 14, 16, 18, 20. Okay, so that's what those things do. So now I'm not going to talk about this part because that's going to be another lesson. I wish I could talk about it, but I don't want to make this thing large. Okay, now let's talk about commands. So I did the basics for people. Now if you're somebody like me or a bunch of other people, you would want to know commands. So if I highlight, and I've already taught about highlighting. If you select, you can hit Control B, bold, Control I, italicize, Control U, underline, and you would think that Control underline, let me see, bold. So let's say that you want to take it out of bold. If it's bold, if you hit Control B again, it takes it, it goes back and forth. So let's say that you want to increase the size of the font. If you hit your Shift Control greater than, will give you a, you see, look at the size. It's jumping every 2 see, every 2 points, right? And then when I do Control Shift less than, it lets me go in and change them, right? Okay, so let me see what else I could talk about. So we have that launcher, okay, and you can also strike through, double strike, superscript. You know, I showed you, it's this thing right here, superscript, and subscript. Okay, so you can get that right here on your launcher, or you can do small caps. So one thing I didn't see, small caps up there. So let me show you what small caps are. You see how this capital W is capital, and then the HEN is not capital, it's lowercase. But let's say that I want HEN to be capitalized, but not as big as the W. Then you could go in here and hit small caps. So see, they're not lowercases, they're capitals, but they're not as big as a capital, if that makes any sense. Okay, so now, all right, so you also yeah, I was gonna show you some stuff, and I'll go ahead and do it, even though it doesn't have. I'll give you a little preview of this, and it's not gonna be. I'm not gonna show you here, but I'm just gonna show you some commands. So if you select something, you can hit Control L for left justify. You can hit Control R to justify it to the right. You can hit Control Center. Oh, okay. Control, and that's the one that I couldn't remember the command, but the Control C you would think is for center, but it's actually in this program it's Control E. So you know, so now you can center it. Anyway, guys, that's a little bit of some text editing that you can do. There's other stuff that I want to show you, but I don't want to get ahead of all this other groups. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, and I hope you become a subscriber.